Well, hope everybody's having a peaceful Shabbat day of rest. I wanted to get in real fast, and I don't plan on spending a long time uh, in this discussion, but I wanted to talk about, well, not so much Israel's awakening into our identity, so much as the public's response, the world's response to our awakening, because it's an interesting subject as far as I'm concerned to talk about, to think on, because there's rhetoric and there's sentiment and there's a narrative uh, that you know that there's hatred involved in the awakening of our people. Now, I want to cover this really fast because there are people who, the camps who stand out on the corners and they've spat vitriol towards other nations, which personally, in my view, I think is unnecessary. That's not what the Most High woke us up for. He didn't wake us up to spew hatred and vitriol. He woke us up to awaken our brothers and sisters and get back to these laws and commandments so that we can get our relationship right with Him again when He comes back. That is what I believe He awakened us for. That prophecy was in Deuteronomy chapter 30, as a matter of fact. So I just want to get that out the way and not talk about the camps. But in any case, there's a narrative being painted uh, that involves hatred and uh, you can call it, I guess, the black supremacist whatever movement. Which again, that's not what this is at all. Not in my view. Not if your awakening is truly with the spirit of Yah, and you are sincerely trying to do His commandments. But in any case, let's get into it. Why is this narrative being painted that the people of Yah, the awakened Israelites, are hateful and that it's a hate group? Well, I think it's about fear. I think that the majority of hate is rooted in fear. We live in a world today that is built off of, let's say, a house of cards, right? Because it's built on lies. The world for centuries has, ever since 745 AD, has begun to realize, well, not well, recognize anyway, mistakenly recognize the wrong people as being the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And now, in recent years, or I'd say in recent decades, that's fallen apart because the truth is being known, the truth is being shed. Well, the truth is being shown and light's being shed on what the truth actually is and who the people actually are. Why is there fear behind that? Because if you know who the people are, really are, then that's going to force any logical thinking mind to ask, okay, well, if these are the people, then who are they? Who are these people that we thought were the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob all this time, who've been over in the land of Israel since 1948? Who are these people? Any mind reasonable and capable of deduction is going to ask that question. And so this is where the fear is coming from. You see that fear. You can see that fear with what they did to Kyrie Irving in late 2022. I believe it was around October, November. They pretty much nailed him to the cross. Not because he said anything vitriolic, not because he hurt anybody, not because he, you know, whatever. He simply posted a link on a Twitter account, on his Twitter, and that got him nailed to the cross, right? Today I saw an article where Jamie Foxx, as a matter of fact, was catching heat. This is just today I saw it. I don't know how long it's been out, how many days it's been out, but I saw it today where he's catching heat, being accused of being anti, because of things he said. His tweet was considered anti-Semitic, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I read it. I don't really see what the deal is. But the point that I'm making is that there's a there's a big backlash for seemingly benign and innocuous actions and comments, right? So this a lot of the vitriol is rooted in a lot of fear because they know that a lot of the infrastructures when it comes to this nation was built off of the backs of slaves, right? So if you know that you are if you know that you have built everything that you have and every advantage you have was built off of bigotry and hatred and the subjugation of another race, and part of that subjugation was keeping them blind to who they are, giving them the wrong identity. Then when they begin to open up their eyes to who they really are, you're going to see your world become questionable. You're going to see your security in this world and your status become questionable at that point. Okay? And those who want to get in front of the narrative will call that awakening hate to try to discourage anybody who may take on such a narrative, who may say, hey, you know, what if we are those people? You know? So anybody who acknowledges that we are the people is going to be, oh, you hate or you're anti. Well, this is where it's coming from. So we we can't really, in all logic and common sense and reasoning, call a realization to who we are hate. But that's what the powers that be would have you to think. That's what the powers that be. That's the narrative that the powers that be would give it, right? If you realize who you are, we're going to call you haters. But that's actually not what it is. So, as I said before, we are people who are simply waking up to who we are, and those of us who sincerely want to be filled with the Ruach Hakodesh will be doing just that, following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, not wasting time hating other nations, not wasting time talking about how you're going to be in captivity and we're going to be your masters and all this other stuff that really we got no business focusing on. The Most High Yah said vengeance belongs to him and he's going to repay. Second Thessalonians. Okay? So we have no business focusing on the hatred and the revenge aspect of things because that's not our lot. But just in the interest of time, I'm just gonna go ahead and point out a few verses uh, that point to who we are, and this is without hate, without vitriol. This is without any pride. It's just what it is, right? So most of us got awoken, if that's even a word. Most of us began to awake. I'll say it like that with Deuteronomy chapter 28. Because it had so many telling verses in it that spoke to the curses of the Israelites. Curses that when you look at the world stage in history and you look at the lot of the so-called African American, Afro Islander, and so on, you can't see where any other nation fit those troubles, those curses more accurately. You can't see what nation fit that more accurately than so-called African Americans, right? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because that's been beaten into the ground. We know all of this, but I'm pointing them out to say that you know there is no hatred behind this realization. It just is what it is. Okay, so I'm actually gonna quickly touch on each verse in each book, and we're gonna call it. All right. So let's go to Deuteronomy 28:29. Okay. And it says, "And you shall be groping at noon, as a blind man gropes in darkness, and not prosper in your ways." Stop right there for a minute. What does it mean to grope in noonday? Well, If you notice at noonday, the sun is highest in the sky. That's the brightest part of the day. Sun always represents light and wisdom and knowledge, right? That's what the sun represents. So there's this light and wisdom all around us, but we're not partaking of it. There's knowledge around us, but we don't have much of it. We would be living in ignorance. A lot of that knowledge would be knowledge of ourselves. That everybody else around us knows who we are, but we don't know who we are. Everybody around us knows who they are, and we know who they are, but we don't have enough knowledge of ourselves to know who we are. Without that self-knowledge, with a lack of self-knowledge comes a lack of self-respect, self-confidence as a people, right? And if you look at us, that is what has been our lot, right? So let's go to verse 30 for the interest of time. You betroth a wife, and another man lies with her. You build a house and do not dwell in it. You plant a vineyard and do not use its fruit. How familiar is that? We all know about what the slave masters got up to with our women. We all know uh, the rape and abuse that our women and even some of our men had to endure, right? Which was a terrible lot. It was a constant attack on our dignity, and if you're a man, your masculinity. Just a constant attack that no other race, no other ethnicity could say that they had to endure. Right? Let's go to 32. Your sons and daughters are given to another people, and your eyes look and feel for them all day long, and your hand powerless. How many instances have you read and seen when you studied African American slavery in the Americas and in the Caribbean, where families were ripped apart, never to see each other again? Why was that such a crucial part of their war against us? Because the first generations knew who they were. They knew they were the people of the book. But if you can take away their children or their children's children, you can cause them as a nation. You could cause us as a nation to forget who we are in as little as 2 to 3 generations. And that is what happened. We forgot who we were because we didn't have that connection with our ancestors, with our parents, to pass down knowledge, right? A people whom you have not known will eat the fruit of your land and all your labors. Verse 33, and you shall be only oppressed and crushed all the days. Again, I challenge you to find any ethnicity on the world stage in history who's gone through that. Thus, you shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a mockery among the people. If you have a King James version, and this is verse 37, if you have a King James version, you might see the word byword, which means the same thing. So when you think of proverb and byword, you're thinking of terms like African American, Afro Islanders. That's why I say so-called, right? For those of us, those who are not in the know and don't know who we actually are, I would say so-called, because you have terms like nigger, Negro, stepping fidget, coon. You have other derogatory terms, jigaboo. You had all these terms back in the slave day. You have, the term African American seems okay. It seems more refined or whatever, but it's still considered a byword because it's calling us outside of what we actually are. It's not giving honor to our place of origin. It's like if I say, okay, hey, you with the yellow skin, you may think I'm talking to a Chinaman, but even the fact that I say Chinaman or Chinese puts him back to his identification with his country, China, right? If I say, hey, if I talk about a brown man, you might think, okay, he's Indian. You've assigned him a color, but you know I'm talking about an Indian, and he can be assigned to that country that he's from, India. If not him, then his ancestors, and he has that ancestral connect. Not so with so-called black people who are actually Israelites, right? It's kind of like we're the only ones that solely and predominantly identify with a color and not a nation, not a country. And there's no other nation, once again, there's no other nation that can say that they fit into that lack of identity, that lack of belonging, right? So 41, I'm going to skip down. You're going to bring forth sons and daughters, but they are not with you, for they go into captivity. Again, it's separation of families, taking fathers from their sons, mothers from their daughters, the ability to teach and to pass down information and knowledge and wisdom gone now. Because one of the most powerful things you can do in crippling a people is to take away their knowledge of themselves, their understanding of who they are. That's where the strength lies. Right? Verse 46, and they shall be, well, and I want to say that's from an earthly perspective, that's where the strength lies. But I don't want to take Yah out of the equation, because first and foremost, our very breath comes from Yah. Okay. Verse 46, and they're going to be, and there shall be upon you a sign. They shall be upon you for a sign and for a wonder, and on your seed forever. What's verse 46 talking about when it says they? These curses. These curses. So when we disobeyed and we did not keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, Yahweh's laws, statutes, and commandments. These were the punishments. And this punishment was twofold, not for the sake of, yes, punishment for not keeping the laws and commandments, but the other purpose that it served was they were to be a sign on us. These troubles, these disciplines, this spanking, so to speak, was also going to serve to let the world know that, yes, these are the people of the book. These are the Israelites. These are Yah's people, and he is disciplining them. He is chastening them. He is spanking them right now. You see people going through these troubles. You see them. You see they fit this list of curses and troubles. That's how you know it's them. These are the people. These are Israelites. Okay? And Yah will scatter you, and I'm on 64. I've skipped down to 64. And Yah shall scatter you among all peoples from one end of the earth unto the other, and there you shall serve other gods. My scripture has mighty ones. In case you're wondering, I'm reading from the Hallelujah scriptures. Okay. So if you have the King James version, yours may say other gods. Mine says mighty ones, which neither you nor your fathers have known, wood and stone. Okay, slavery took us everywhere. Slavery took us not only to the Americas but to the islands, Central America. It took us to the UK. It took us everywhere. Okay, we literally were scattered. Okay. And again, this was involuntarily, and no other people had this experience. And I would challenge anyone to, if anyone knows of any other ethnicity that had this experience, I challenge you, put it in the comments. I'd like to know about it. Verse 68, and Yahweh shall bring you back to Egypt. My version says Mitzrayim, in ships by the way of which I said to you, you are never to see it again, and there you shall be sold to your enemies as male and female slaves, and no one to save. Okay, now, our people refer to that land as Mitzrayim, not Egypt. The Egyptians refer to that land, their own land, as Kemet. Okay, so if you have the term Egypt in your King James Version, know that that was a Greek term. That was a Greek term that was given to that land, which means land of bondage. Why did the Greeks refer to it as Egypt land of bondage, because they knew the history of Egypt with the Israelites. So they coined it Egypt, land of bondage, which means bondage, right? So again, this is also just like 46, 68 is also telling, because this said you're going to go back to Egypt with ships. Well, if this was actual literal Egypt or Misraim, you could get there from Israel via caravan on foot, right? You wouldn't need ships to get there. So it's not talking about actual Kemet or actual Mizraim. It's talking about going back into a land of bondage. But this time I'm going to send you there in ships. Okay, so the people that claim to be the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, well, they never went anywhere involuntarily in ships throughout their history. Okay, they never suffered. They never suffered the curses that are in Deuteronomy 28. Okay, and again, this is not to speak pejoratively of any uh, people group. It's just to speak facts. Okay, but these are what identified Israel, and those troubles were serving to identify Israel to the world as, okay, these are my people. Jeremiah 17:4. Let's go there really fast. And you, even yourself, shall let go of your inheritance, which I gave you, and I shall make you serve your enemies in a land which you have not known, for you have kindled a fire in my displeasure, which burns forever. So discontinuing from your heritage simply means forgetting who you are, forgetting the laws, statutes, and commandments that were given to us to serve as a covenant and a relationship between our nation and the Most High Yah. We discontinued from that. And without those laws, statutes, and commandments, and losing our relationship with our power, our Elohim, Yahweh, we were defenseless in the world. Because other nations, they have their powers, they have their Elohims, their mighty ones. They're not as great as Yahweh, because Yahweh is the only true Elohim. But every nation, every nation has a principality, a supernatural principality governing over top of it. Okay? Think back to the book of Daniel when the prince of Persia came and withstood Gabriel as Daniel was praying, that prince of Persia being an angel. Every nation has an angel governing over it from the spiritual realm. Okay? So all these nations, they didn't lose contact with their fallen powers, because these are fallen angels that are governing over these world powers, these world political powers. All right? And they didn't lose that, which is why it seems like they're so much more powerful than what we are. But in actuality, we lost connection with our Elohim through our own disobedience, our own turning of our own backs. Okay? But that's pretty much what that means. So we discontinued from our inheritance. I want to skip down to Micah chapter 5, verse 7. And the remnant of Jacob, Micah chapter 5, verse 7. And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many peoples. Remember, it says we were scattered all over the globe, all over the place. We were scattered. As dew from Yahweh, as showers on the grass, which do not wait for man, nor delay for the sons of men. Verse 8, and the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles, in the midst of many peoples, like a lion among the beasts of the forest, like a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who, if he passes through, shall both tread down and shall tear, and no one to deliver. Okay? So, when you look at our people, we are everywhere. We're living not only in the Americas, North, Central, and South. We're living in the UK. We're living in the Caribbean islands. We're living in different parts of Africa even. We're living all over the world, right? Dispersed, scattered. Okay, and again, we are the only one who there's not a majority of us in any one area, but we are literally scattered, especially Judah, having been scattered. All right, I'm going to move on to Psalms chapter 44. Psalms chapter 44 and verse 13. You made us a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and a mockery to those around us, making us a proverb among the nations, a shaking of the head among the peoples. Do we even have to say anything more on that one? When you look at a people and when you look at someone who you just feel almost sorry for and you shake your head, what do you think other nations collectively do when they look at the state of so-called black people? We've literally become a shaking of the head. Anyone who has been awakened, in past years already knows this. And if that's you listening to this, I'm not talking to you, but I'm talking to newly awakened ones and those who are still blinded in other religions. Right? So, again, no other nation is a shaking of the head. Every other nation has themselves together economically, socially. They have their own. They have their unity. They have their national pride. It's our people that are still working on that, so to speak. So, but here's the thing. Yahweh said in Deuteronomy chapter 30 that when we begin to call on His name and we begin to keep His laws and commandments again and come back to Him, then He's going to come back. Then He's going to return. That's when the gathering will start. We're calling it the gathering. If you're still a part of the Christian world, you know it as the second coming. But that's when that happens. Okay? When we start to realize, okay, we've been divorced from our Creator long enough. The one people who's supposed to have the deepest relationship with the Most High Yah has spent enough time fooling around in the dirt. Right? And so we're coming back. We want to come back to our first love, so to speak. We want to come back to our Father. Nothing about that is hatred. Nothing about that is pride when it comes to other nations. And if it is, then it shouldn't be. If you're a part of a camp and that's your mindset, come out of it. If you're a part of a camp and you're being taught by some radical teacher to look down upon other nations, whether it be Hamite, whether it be Japhethite, whether it be Ishmael, whoever. That's not what you've been awakened for. And I got to go back to this again. Our awakening, our wanting to come back to our Father, has nothing to do with us hating anyone. It has to do with us loving the Most High Yah with all our heart, soul, and mind, and loving our neighbors as ourselves. So with that said, I'm going to end right there, and I'm hoping everybody has a blessed and restful rest of the Shabbat, and we will reconvene at a later date.